Ladies and gentlemen, I have returned to you. Welcome to Let's Be Real Sports. I am, of course, Big Sherm. This is...
I am Cheyenne Finch.
And we have a special guest today from the Council of Commentary. My brother, introduce yourself and your platform.
Hey, my name is Christian, a.k.a. The Big Stretch on the Council of Commentary podcast, Four Corners of Commentary. I'm just here as an auxiliary member today just to be chopping it up with these two lovely individuals. Thank you for having me, and totally an honor to be here today.
Thank you,
Yes,
thank you. Now, today we're going to get right into it. Our first topic today is about the Deshaun Watson saga going on in the NFL right now. My thoughts about it is real simple. First of all, if he did what he did, it's over. Point blank. There's no way to misconstrue it. If he did what he did, he got to go. They've already suspended, Nike suspended his stuff. They're starting to suspend his stuff now. They have not cut him, but just suspended. So with that, I really think, more than anything, the timing of this is odd. It's just odd to me. How do we go from just talking about pure football, talking about football and, you know, how dumb the franchise is, to all of a sudden now this coming out now as this guy was trying to facilitate a trade? I mean, a lot of the TV show stuff won't talk about it like that, but we have to, it's right there in front of us. Like, how did this just come out now? And if it did, why didn't the NFL know about this beforehand? We always talk about the NFL trying to be transparent and all this stuff and everything like that. Where was this?
Because it's politics. Like, yeah, there's a lot of talk about being transparent and being open because that's the image that they want to portray. Because if the NFL comes out as, oh, we protect our players no matter what they've done, of course, they're going to lose fans. Like,
have they protected their players?
They do. They protect their players. Now, they do it less now, I will say. Players are being held accountable for their actions a lot more these days. But I think the reason this took so long to come out is because somebody was trying to sweep it under the rug. Because nobody wants to cut their player based on, like, bad... Like, I don't want to, like, downplay it like this, but like bad social decisions.
Because of bad press.
It's like you did something outside of the field that didn't go over well in the press, and now we have to cut you. And it's kind of like when Odell got traded to the Browns. He didn't get traded because he was a bad player. He got traded because he had bad behavior, and they couldn't keep that on the team.
Right.
And that's typically a last resort for a team. They don't easily go, oh, we don't like your character, so I'm going to cut you. If you perform on the field, you perform on the field, and that's what they need to bring in money, to bring in seats, to bring in merchandise sales, things like that. That's what they need to keep their franchise going. So the very last move they're going to make is to cut that player.
And this player, the player trying, would that be potential, would be cut, would destroy the salary cap.
Right.
Altogether. But of course they'll have the voids and all that stuff. But my whole thing is, they could have done this during his playoff run. If this is going back so far, as they say they're saying it's going far, they could have did it to his player run and just cut it all off. Why now?
There's a lot of things at play here just because, you know, and I agree with your sentiment. I just want to open by saying, you know, we do live in a society, unfortunately, where victims, you know, potential victims of sexual assault are not necessarily given the same treatment maybe in the court of public opinion that an athlete might get. You know, a lot of these people I know from my interactions, you know, in various sports forums and groups and talking to people, you know, a lot of people think that some of these women do have an agenda outside of receiving justice, not only for themselves, but other potential victims as well. But like you said, and again, I'm not using this as like an admission of whether I believe that he's innocent or guilty. Right. The timing of this is very suspicious. The fact that he has been very vocal in wanting to leave Houston, you know, in the midst of while this is going on, and this has evidently gone back years, you know, not even this season, but the season prior, to which he had a wonderful season. You know, his trade value is sky high, most likely. You know, Texans are going to have trouble trading him because they are going to want a substantial package for him.
Of course.
You know, how long did the owner know about this? If this happened, you know, so long ago.
This is what
there's
I
a lot
mean.
of things at play about this.
This is why the owner had all this information, and this also saying, like you said, okay, they want to sweep it under the rug. They don't want this type of thing to get out, but it's not like they're saying, oh, we don't have no comment. They're just leaving him hanging out to dry. Like, hey, okay. It's almost like you're saying, Okay, you want to leave us? Oh, we're going to do this to you.
Here's what probably happened. They probably said, we have this information, we're not going to release it because this is our player and we want to keep our player. We don't want to be pressured to release our player. Then our player says, I want to leave you. And they're like, after everything that we've done for you, everything that's like the relationship we've had.
The new contract they gave him.
Exactly. Now you want to leave us. We're not going to allow you to have such an easy time finding a new home. So what we're going to do is release this information and we're just going to sit back. We're not going to release you. We're not going to cut you. Because another team, if he was someone easy to cut, he would have been cut already. Mm-hmm. Because it's bad press. You don't want to hold on to a player like that. But instead of cutting him, they're like, we've released it, now deal with it. Because now you can't go anywhere. You have to stay here because we're the only ones that want you. It's a toxic relationship, honestly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But my problem with this...
But it's affecting lives. Mm-hmm. Not only the lives of Deshaun Watson, but the lives of the 22 women who are supposedly involved in this whole thing.
But my problem with that...
counting.
Right. My problem with that is now they're asking the women to reveal themselves publicly. They're like, you have to reveal your identity in this case. Why?
I think they say it's Texas law, I believe. I believe so.
Why does that need to be a law? If these women were sexually assaulted and as victims, they shouldn't have to release their identity to the public. They should just receive justice in the privacy of their own home. Mm-hmm. Because regardless if you're a victim or not in a sexual assault situation, sometimes you can be afraid of being looked at differently because you were put in that situation. Absolutely. And it's not your fault. But now your face is released to the public as a person that was a part of this situation. And let's be honest, there are a lot of fans that are serious about their game. They're not going to... There are a lot of people that aren't going to be on these women's sides. They're going to see them as you're destroying Deshaun Watson's career. You're getting in the way of like Deshaun Watson doing this. You're the problem because you stepped forward and you said something. Mm-hmm. And we're hanging these women out to dry.
It's bigger than football.
Yeah,
it's bigger than football.
It's way bigger than
football. And I share your sentiment, what you just mentioned about potentially releasing to these potential victims' names because we live in an age of information. You know, fans could easily get their hands on their information, harass them, potentially do something physical to them. I'm not necessarily kosher with their names being released to the public as far as a lawsuit is concerned either, because it's putting them, quite frankly, I feel like it's putting them at risk.
Right. Mm-hmm. I think Rusty Hartman said he wanted to see those individuals so he could see, so he has a chance to, so Deshaun Watson have a chance to see who the accusers are as well, because they don't want him going in blind.
Right.
But
he knows who his
build
accusers
up
are.
Adequate legal defense is their claim.
Right. Right. And like man, this got crazy so fast.
It's a heavy subject with a lot of layers to it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Like it just boggles the mind sometimes. I just hope and pray that this just gets done with. Like I said, if he did what he did, he's done.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
If he did not, I would like an investigation on the Houston Texans and why the hell this is coming out now, in the midst of him trying to be traded. Why? Why? Just why? Why are we waiting so long? And of course, let me not say, a lot of women who deal with these situations don't want to come out right away because they're scared of what you just said.
Exactly. The court of public opinion already has an opinion on these women before any legal ball gets rolling. Like one of the things that I've always found to be absolutely hilarious about other people giving their opinions about these is like, I would like to see, I'll wait till like the legal situations get, filed. But in the same breath, these same people will say, well, this person is obviously lying. It's like there's no neutrality there, and it's not necessarily so black and white. We should be able to acknowledge, I think, as a society that these victims are potential victims.
Right.
I mean, not say victims because I don't know anything.
Right.
These potential victims deserve to be heard. If they have any type of complaints or accusations, they need to be validated and they need to be investigated.
Right.
But on the flip side, there could be a modicum of some of these individuals lying, and I don't necessarily think it's condemning to acknowledge that either. It's not necessarily an admission of guilt or innocence either way.
Okay. So, with that being said. And again, I just want to just wrap up by saying, and I'll say this one more time so you understand me. If he did it, he done. Mm-hmm. If he's exonerated, there should be an investigation on the Houston Texans, and the ownership probably be let go. or however they got to do with the government to get them out. And that's it with that. So on to our next topic, on to a lighter, well, kind of a lighter topic, but still something that needs to be talked about is the women's college basketball tournament and the WNBA. Two topics in one because they're all interject. Now, recently Draymond Green had some words about women's athletics, you know, and then Megan Rapinoe countered and basically told him shut the hell up. But with that being said, first of all, the college game's been good for years. The women's college game's been good for years. I think UConn started a whole dynasty and really brought the college game to the forefront. And not only them, Pat Summitt and the Tennessee Volunteers as well, going through those years in the 90s, and help bring the game up to where we see now. The women's game has been on the forefront recently because of photos of an Oregon student during their run in the NCAA tournament. Their weight rooms look vastly different from the men's weight rooms. And that was reported, and the NCAA buckled under pressure and then gave these women the rooms. Why did they have to wait to get these rooms now? This room should have been there from the get-go. But that's just part of the layer of it all. When I look at the WNBA in terms of popularity, because like I said, women's college basketball is very popular. It may not be as popular as people may want it to be, but it is popular. I watch it. I've been watching it for years.
Yeah,
I've been watching it more as much as I've been watching men's college basketball. But the WNBA has been out since 1997. And everybody keeps wondering, why isn't that taking off? Why hasn't it gotten to the level? Because we know the NBA is bankrolling the WNBA. Everybody knows that. But you're asking yourself now, how do you grow the game? And I feel like, first of all, it has to evolve. You have to believe in evolution first. When in 97, you had players like Cynthia Cooper, Teresa Weatherspoon, Tina Picciero, I hope I said her name right, Lisa Leslie.
You did.
Rebecca Lobo, thank you. Rebecca Lobo. They were the foundation. They were the foundation of the league. They were more fundamental. As you got over the years, the league started, doing the WNBA, they started to do crossovers now. And I don't want to sound like I'm almost saying women could always do crossovers, but we wasn't seeing it in the game yet.
Right.
That's what I'm saying, evolution. Now we're getting to the point where the handle is crazy with women. I've watched a lot of YouTube videos, a lot of Facebook videos, Instagram, where these women are just nice with the handle. Like, it's ridiculous. And in the WNBA, that's great for the game. It builds the game. Now, the only thing the women don't do is dunk. And like I said, evolution is key. Once you'll get women dunking regularly, more and more as the game evolves more.
But here's the thing, I don't think dunking is the reason why it's not taking off.
Well, hold on. I've heard many people online say, oh, it's because the women don't dunk. That's why nobody's watching the game.
You don't watch the game because the women don't dunk?
That's what I've heard. That's what I've heard.
No, he's right. And I've seen a lot of people echo those sentiments. It's like, well, if they shorten the rims and stuff like that.
Exactly.
I'm like, which to me, I think is a ridiculous premise. I don't think that, I see millions of people. You can watch two bad teams like the Sacramento Kings and the Minnesota Timberwolves, and people are dunking left and right. Nobody's watching those games because they don't have any star power, to be quite frank.
No, they don't.
Right. People want to see winners for the NBA at least.
Of course.
I personally think that the resources as far as revenue sharing is not the same, number one. Number two, marketing is an issue. When's the last time I've seen a WNBA commercial? Exactly. I can't necessarily tell you. And I get the argument, I was like, oh, the women's game doesn't bring in the same amount of revenue as the men's game, which is true. But at the same time, you have to look at where the resources are coming from. The NBA is the one giving the resources.
It.
Right.
There's a reason that that they don't have the star power that the NBA has, like you said, the marketing. And that's why I wanted to say, it's more about the politics of the situation. It's not so much that the game needs to evolve. It's not that they're putting on a bad game. Like you said, you've been watching for years. It's not, the performance isn't bad at all. It's just as entertaining as an NBA game. The problem is the stigma that's put on women's sports versus men's sports. Men's sports are believed to be more entertaining, to be like the to be the rock of the sports industry, the entertainment industry. It's something you expect people to want to go out to. You expect them to want to watch. Whereas women's sports has always been looked down upon. It doesn't get the marketing because nobody wants to take that chance. They don't want to take that leap of faith on women's sports because of the mentality that surrounds women's sports. It's not taken seriously. That's why, like, you hear men always joking about, like, yeah, they'll watch women's sports, but they'll only watch like lingerie basketball. Like, they're not gonna go out and watch a real game,
right?
Because they see women as sexual objects, and they're like, they don't want to change that idea that they have. They don't want to change that mentality, and to see a woman out there like actually playing the game the same way that a man does will take that away from their mentality, and they're not ready for that.
Good point. And my thing is this also. It's not only on, because there are men out there, the men in the NBA players do support the WNBA.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't know where they came from, all the men don't support, they actually do. I've seen them at games, they're sitting right there courtside with their daughters, right there clapping right along, watching the game. You know, Kobe was there courtside. At the WNBA, I think it was a Liberty game? Or a Sparks game.
Liberty or Sparks, one of the two.
Right. And he was teaching them, and she was asking questions, you know? So you can build a game, but the one thing, I think the main thing that would help the WNBA is women have to support it more itself. Where are the stars? Like a Cardi B, a Megan, all these women to help. It's not their job to do that, don't get me wrong, but it would help prompt the league.
More celebrities.
More inclusion in that.
Because that's the thing, if you get more celebrities in the seats, like, you know how they always go to the courtside seats, and you see who's sitting down there, and you got like Mike Tyson or like a comedian like Denzel, Eddie Murphy, somebody, like somebody's always sitting in courtside. If we had more of that in women's sports, there would be more necessity for marketing, because it would be easier to market because your favorite people are watching it, you should watch it too.
Absolutely.
Right.
And two, just based off of that principle alone, like the popularity of it will automatically spike, because if somebody that I'm interested in, like if Megan Thee Stallion and Cardi B are at a game, I'm gonna be like, oh, where are they? What are they doing? I want to see it too, because they're seeing it. Like, that's just the way that marketing works. So like you said, it's not their jobs particularly to do that.
Right, it's
but
not their job.
would help.
It definitely would help. I think the one thing that could really help the WNBA from a expansion standpoint is try to expand rosters internationally speaking.
Of course.
I think that, especially internationally, women's sports is taken a whole lot more seriously beyond the States. You know, especially in places like, like Serbia, Montenegro.
Right.
You look at for example, Yao Ming was able to do for the NBA. It opened them up to an entirely new market because they had a Chinese superstar. Not saying that, I'm not sure if there's a women's basketball player that's the equivalent to Yao Ming, but international expansion as far as like a talent pool standpoint can't hurt, because I personally think the WNBA, especially given their international dominance in the Olympics, this is the best women's league in the world. Our U.S. team kills the competition year in and year out.
For about 20 years now.
Easily, like without question.
For about 20 years now.
So I think
30 years, excuse me.
I think trying to reach out to international superstars elsewhere that play the women's game and bringing them into, the microcosm of the American game can only help them, expand internationally. It'll open up the market.
My last thing on this topic is, and the WNBA has to figure this out. Who is their greatest player so far? It's been around for 25 years. We don't even know who their greatest player is. You have Lisa Leslie, you have Lobo, Swoops, Cynthia Cooper, Tina Thompson, Cheryl Cooper, Cheryl Swoops.
Cynthia Cooper, excuse me, not Cheryl Cooper. Cheryl Swoops.
We got it. But they need to define that first. And from who's their greatest player, and market her as well, because that will help the game. Michael Jordan's the best player in the world. He's the most marketable player in the world. You have other players in the NBA, like a Maya Moore, who's probably equivalent, because she's got the champions, the MVPs, and she's done more off the court too. Like, it's not like the stars are not there, but you have to push those out more.
It's funny you say that, because to answer that question, I personally think the best player in the WNBA right now is Candace Parker. But, Shaq was...
Candace Parker?
Yeah.
I'll leave that. Go ahead.
I think so, personally.
Go ahead.
Shaq, she does analyst work for TNT during the offseason, whatever have you. And Shaq, she went down I won Defensive Player of the Year and MVP. And Shaq was surprised. He didn't even know that she won Defensive Player of the Year. And he was she basically just told him, look my name up. That, and that became
Google
a huge
me.
thing. But she's more known, essentially, for quote unquote, in a playful way, having this brotherly sister relationship
Right.
with Shaq than being the Defensive Player of the Year in the best women's league in America.
And that's the thing. A lot of women, they only flourish when they're linked to a man.
Right.
And that's not okay.
And that's not fair, yeah.
You're not strong enough in your own right. You're only strong when you're linked to a stronger man. And we have to change that stereotype.
I will leave it on that. Leave it on that. That was good. That was goddamn good.
Absolutely right.
That was goddamn good. Now, for our last topic, and the reason why Mr. Christopher is here today, we're here to talk about WrestleMania Night 1. And first of all, shout out to Bad Bunny for executing the Canadian, the Weapon Destroyer.
Washington Heights Destroyer.
Destroyer. Oh my God. Bad Bunny had a clean performance last night. It was so clean. I was impressed. I'm like, you can feel it. You feel he was enjoying the moment. You could feel it. And then when he did it, even Priest was like, Miz was like, what the hell was this?
Yeah, that was.
But the night, the moment, Sasha Banks versus Bianca Belair. What a match. First of all, it's for the first time ever, 2 African-American women have main evented a night of WrestleMania. It was a great moment from start to finish. Chris, I'll let you take it away, and then I'll come in.
I'm glad you opened up with that historical point, because the last time 2 women of color main evented anything in the WWE was in 2003. And it was on a throwaway show, Sunday Night Heat.
Wow.
So for 2 women of color to be main eventing what is essentially the Super Bowl of professional wrestling is huge from a historical standpoint.
Of course.
And these are not just 2 women of color. Also, these are the cream of the crop that the WWE has to offer. These are 2 absolutely supreme athletes. Sasha Banks is, known as the boss in the WWE. She is, pretty much the pinnacle of, a complete package. She would be what is like the equivalent to a 5'2" player in baseball.
Right.
She can do it all. Bianca Belair, outside of the WWE, is a supreme athlete for the University of Tennessee. She excelled in track, but her nickname, the EST, is because she's fastest, strongest, roughest, toughest. She really is.
Yeah.
From top to bottom,
Yeah.
I can't think of too many more complete athletes to step in a WWE ring. She really is what she says she is, And I was absolutely blown away by the performance that both of them put on last night. I was so proud, not only as a fan, but it was I have a niece that's getting into wrestling and watching it with me.
Oh, wow.
And now she sees 2 individuals that look like her
Exactly.
performing at the level that they're performing at. The statement representation matters. She now has somebody that looks like her that she can look up to, and that was what made me so proud to watch that match.
That was one point there I wanted to hit on, because you had Ron Simmons win the championship back in the 70s. It opened a whole new door for black folk all around the world.
I remember the
It was crazy. And now I looked at Bianca Belair, I see the same thing. This is game changing. And Triple H, first of all, shout out to Mark Henry for discovering her in the first place.
Mark Henry discovered her, yeah.
Shout out to him. And shout out to Triple H for realizing her talent and making her talent, developing her talent to what you saw last night. She broke character right before the match, and I understood it. Sasha understood it. It was a moment. If you see her story, you can check it out. You can Google it. Check her story out. It's pretty remarkable. But you could just tell her moment, and they were just soaking in it. And then the fans got sucked in. And that's when you had a good match about to brew. But when the match began, Sasha Banks was on fire. And I say this first and foremost. Sasha Banks is on the fast track to the WWE Hall of Fame. Period.
Yeah.
That's just done. Of course, the 4 horsewomen, of course. They're in there. That's a lot. But her particularly, she's such a genius in the ring. Watching her last night interact with Bianca Belair, the way she was moving, the storytelling within the match. It's something like Shawn Michaels always talks about in his matches. You want to tell the story, not only outside the ring when you're promoting, but also in the match with movement, certain things. And at the end, when she whipped her with her
Yeah,
braid,
her hair, yeah. That's
and
her.
you saw the mark, do yourself a favor, please check out the blog, and you'll see the
actual real lash mark.
the tiger uppercut scar
Yeah.
on her side. I was blown away. Like, to me personally, that was a 4-star match. I'm not gonna give it 5.
Why not 5?
It was just missing a little something. It's not. That's like nitpicking, and you probably know what I'm talking about.
I know.
here.
Yeah,
That's more nitpicking.
Missing a little seasoning, a little sprinkle,
Maybe a little bit, a little pepper.
I'm a proponent of historical significance propping up a moment even more. It's like when Jerry West hit that half-court shot against like the Knicks to go into Game 7. It's like that takes a game from like being really good into the stratosphere.
Right.
So I would give it a full 5.
Okay.
Just for the historical significance,
Okay.
plus the performance that they did.
Okay.
This is also like the first WWE event that's had fans in God knows how
Right.
long. It's the first WrestleMania with a rain delay. So I think.
And we're literally playing a doubleheader anyway.
Right. Night 2 is tonight.
Right.
And I think because of all that, you consider everything that they had to work to get to this moment.
Mm-hmm.
I think that props it up and makes it a 5-star match. To me, at least,
Well, what do you think about my 4-star rating then?
I think it's fair. Don't get me wrong. I think it's fair, just like from the work rate perspective. But I just feel like the historical significance of everything props it up a little bit more. I think it should be a 5-star match.
Now, Cheyenne, we have 2 black women for the first time in it. I mean, how do you feel? I mean, I know you're not a wrestling aficionado like that, but what does that mean to you when you hear that in an industry where you don't see black women at all, really?
Honestly, I wish it had happened when I was a little younger. I didn't really get into wrestling until maybe about 2 years ago when a very good friend of mine, long friend, we've been friends since elementary school, he became a wrestler and he asked me to be a photographer for him.
Nice.
While he had some of his matches. So I went with him to his matches and on those trips with him, like talking to him about his craft and like learning about it through him. And like he's black as well. So it was just, I felt like I was pulled more into it and I had a better understanding of it. I was enjoying it more rather than it just being something I heard about my entire life. And I think had I seen women that looked like me doing it when I was younger, I probably would have been more engrossed in it because I grew up watching sports, liking sports. My dad had football on the TV all the time and I was always watching with him. So that was something that so I was never one of those people that's like, I just don't like sports in general. I did. It was just I needed someone to do it with or to feel like I was somehow connected to the sport in some way. Like football's been a part of my heart and soul my entire life because my dad brought me into it and it's just been part of who I am. And I feel like had I seen someone that looked like me doing wrestling, I probably would have been pulled into that too. Representation is everything.
Right. And back then, when I was watching it, there was Jackie.
Yeah.
And that's the first one I saw.
Yeah, that was like the first.
That was the first part.
Black diva, I remember.
Right. But listen, she was a diva. She's a diva. She'll whip your ass.
Also tough as nails, yeah.
She'll whip your ass. She'll whip your ass real good.
Like my mom, who I've as a kid like tortured enough, had to drag her, to multiple wrestling events, would watch WCW with me because she would do like moves off the top rope in heels. And my mom would always comment on that. Now, obviously, as a man, I know nothing about doing anything in heels, but it's like I can imagine how difficult that could be, wearing a pair of stiletto heels and jumping off of anything.
Imagine doing everything on your tippy toes, and you can't put them down.
There you have it. And she's doing this with like excellent coordination, like throwing drop kicks and slamming people while wearing heels, and I'm like, okay, that's something.
Hell yeah, that dude. You crazy?
I remember one time I heard in an interview, Beyonce's father used to have her practice like running in heels and singing at the same time so that she would be prepared to perform on stage one day. Honestly, it's an art to do things in heels. It takes practice, training. That's a different kind of strength training that you just can't get at a regular gym.
I don't see the lie anywhere, man.
It's intense.
Shout out to Beyonce and her ankles. All right.
Right.
With that being said, that is it. We had a very great show today. Once again, please, your name, sir, and your platform.
Absolutely. Again, my name is Christian, aka The Big Stretch on the Four Corners of Council podcast, Council of Commentary production. Please check us out on YouTube, Facebook, and the like. Thank you again for having me. It's an excellent show. I absolutely had a blast and hope to be back in the future.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you for coming.
Sister Cheyenne, of course, is
Yes,
always
as
here.
always.
Brother Joe, we hold it down for you. We'll hope you're back next week.
You better be back next week.
Come on, Luke Cage. Great value, Luke Cage. Come on. We
Great
need you
value,
back.
Luke Cage.
That's great value, Luke Cage, right there. That's my man right there. But anyway, we thank you for watching. Please check out the blog on Facebook. Check us out on all platforms. And also, of course, on the Gifted Sounds Network, where we're coming from today. Thank you very much and have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Off.
Looks good, guys.
What?